Hey folks, welcome to Market Technical Analysis by InTheMoneyStocks.com for Tuesday, February 12th, 2008. Well, we had another rally today across the board, although the Nasdaq was the weaker index closing basically on the flat line. However, we saw the Dow gaining a lot of momentum to the upside, up 133 points, while the S&P was up about 10 points today. So a solid rally across the board, and early in the day it was all the indexes just screaming. We saw the Dow up 100, Nasdaq up 20, and then we got into a couple bump areas. And you guys that have been following us here, especially the last couple days, you guys know that we switched our bias to a bounce play over the last couple days, going back to as early as Thursday and Friday of last week for this week, going into Options X. Now, as we said yesterday, there were multiple reasons for that, and we're not going to get into the specifics aside from psychology, technicals, and proprietary, but it did indicate that we were going to see a bounce here, and sure enough, we have seen that bounce. Now, let's look at the intraday chart here, and this is the intraday ES, and I've been doing a lot of technicals on showing patterns and price, time, volume, and so forth, and I just want to show you a couple of patterns in this chart today. Overall, we saw the markets move up very, very early, and it was catapulted by Warren Buffett basically making a acquisition attempt for the large bond insurers' portfolios of municipal bonds. And Warren Buffett came out and we all know he started a company to do this basic thing, saying that we'll buy all these municipal bonds from these bond players and for a nice price here, giving them lots of money and so forth. And the markets rallied, and you can see this is where it happened right here at 8 o'clock. He was on live on CNBC this morning, and right off of that we saw the markets rally. Everyone got happy and so forth, and it was the greatest thing since sliced bread, to put things lightly. But the question I just want to raise to everyone is this, and this was brought up on NBC, and it didn't seem to affect the markets until later in the day with a little bit of a sell-off, but just you can see that buy side, and then you can see the move up here into the middle of the day where we reached the highs around 11:30. But he was basically offering to buy the good portion of these companies. The municipals are not what's in trouble. It's the CDOs and all these other credit default issues and all this other stuff that's the ugly side. So essentially what he was doing here was offering to buy the good portion of the debt of these companies, the stuff that's not going to go under, for his company, and leave the crappy stuff that's going to go under, leaving these companies with nothing good whatsoever left. And that obviously is not going to happen. I just don't see it happening unless these companies get their hands tied and have to make this deal. But the municipals, what's making these companies money. You take that away, they're really in deep trouble. So ultimately, Warren Buffett, it would be a great deal for his company. It would be absolutely phenomenal for his company, but unless these companies get their hands tied and really need the cash here, they're not going to go for this. So I suspect that, I know one company he did say one company refused the bid. The other two I fully suspect will. And the market will realize here that wasn't such a great deal to the market. But in any case, you can see the move up we've had off of that. We had a nice move up, and then you can see that in spirit of bull flag. And you guys know I'm big on these flag patterns. Anytime you get this move up and you get a sideways to slightly lower trading, especially into a moving average, note that how it comes right into that 20. It's just asking to blast off higher. And sure enough, blasting off higher is what it did, and we saw that move up. And you had a nice move up. And at this point in the chat room, we did mention, it was a beautiful mention as we did sell off, we said that we were seeing some weakness up here. And you can see, you had a push up, and it closed here. We had another push up that closed right in that area, but you're not seeing successive strong highs here. You're seeing little tails forming on the top, and sure enough, that was the topping point where we called in the chat room, and we rolled over. We talked about it needing to retouch that 20 moving average. Whenever you see a chart here, and it's been above this 20 moving average for this long, and this is a couple hour period here, you know it has to come back and touch that 20 moving average, as it is kind of a security blanket in the market. And we use that on multiple occasions to angle the markets properly. So here we saw it pull back. It even went below the 20 moving average on a dip. You got a bottoming candle right here, a bottoming tail, which signaled another buy right into that 20 moving average. And then you saw another sell-off, a little bounce, and then the big sell-off. You had a 3-bar surge to the downside here. Well, almost a 3-bar. You had an inside here, a little even bar right there. Nonetheless, you had a big-time sell-off coming right down to the 200, at which point we rallied into the close. As I mentioned already, the rally continues with the Dow up 133 today, S&P up 10, NASDAQ flat. Now, one pattern we were watching today was the in spirit of head and shoulders here, which you can see. And I'll just draw this in. You have the shoulder here. You have the head up here. All right, we'll just draw it in briefly. And then you have the shoulder over here. Okay? Now, the key here, what we were watching for, so you can see shoulder, head, shoulder, was what you want to draw here, and this is what we did to note the breakdown, is you want to focus in on the two bottom edges of the shoulders. So you have one line connected to two lines. When this breaks to the downside, you get a dramatic sell-off. Now look at how, and let me take away a couple of these lines so we can really focus in on this here. Look at how in this chart you had that shoulder formation. It came down and tested this line, and that line happened to coincide with the 50 moving average right here. And off of that line you got a bounce, not only because of the 20, but because it was support of that neckline. Alright, this head and shoulders line right here, which is support, was also coinciding with the 50. So you got an initial bounce, but the second wave of selling that came through took it through. You got a close right here, which was below the 50 moving average and below the neckline, triggered a sell-off all the way down. Obviously, you know you're going to have support, and we stressed this in multiple videos. The first hit of the 200 moving average is always a bounce play, and sure enough, the bounce right up there. You get a beautiful bounce into the close, and that is the day in the intraday. Now let's focus in on the daily here, and I want to show you the SPY first on the daily. Now the keys here, folks, are that we knew we were going to rally from these area. You always have that little pullback, and this is an ABC. We're looking at a possible ABC pattern here on the upside. And again, we're not calling for a major rally whatsoever, but you need that little push up. And we knew we'd stall out somewhere around this 20 moving average, and usually it is resistance, as you guys have noted in multiple videos we've said. Now, the interesting situation was we were above, we were below. Ultimately, we closed right on that 20 moving average on the daily. And that leads you to believe you have a kind of a question mark leading into tomorrow. And I said this in the chat room today towards the end of the day, is we had a pretty powerful sell-off. They rallied it at the end of the day. In my opinion, it's going to come down to retail sales tomorrow, as we are just leaning right on this moving average now, and it could go either way. You could see us retrace a little bit to the downside for a day or push higher. Now, the interesting thing is, ultimately, I do think that we still have some more upside to go, but we've had a 2-day rally and a 3-day rally for the NASDAQ, as the NASDAQ was up Friday as well, while the Dow and the S&P were down, but a 2-day rally on the other indexes, and, you know, every time you get a couple-day rally here, there's a possibility, especially in a bear market, and this is key, folks. If we were in a bull market, I'd say, hey, long, go long, go long, but we are not, and I want to repeat, we are not in a bull market right now. We are in a bear market, and even after a day or two of rallies, you always have to look to take some profits off the table if you've been long. And so, again, I stress that, is that, yes, we may go up tomorrow, but ultimately you have to play on the defensive side, and it's so key to be defensive in a bear market. When you get a profit, you take it. You at least take half of it off the table, and I can't stress that enough. So as I said, for tomorrow, we have retail sales at 8:30, oil inventories at 10:30. Oil inventories could be just key to oil prices, which could affect alternate energy plays and oil stocks primarily, but the retail sales will probably set the trend for the markets. If they come out above estimates, then you could look for a possible rally, which could get us above this 20 moving average. Once we close above that, then we reevaluate the charts and look for a possible gap fill on the SPY to here. All right, and that would be the first area once we get above there that you can look for a move. Should they come out below, and we could retrace down in this area, somewhere in this area here. All right, so there's key levels here we need to watch. It's all hinging on today, tomorrow, and I do believe we are on a pivot point here, either for a small retracement before another move higher, or just a continued move higher here, depending on those retail sales. Now let's look at the NASDAQ here. NASDAQ, same situation. We had a nice 3-day move up on the NASDAQ from the lows here. And what you can see is we came right into that 20 moving average on the chart here. That's going to be resistance, as we just said. And again, we closed below it, which is not necessarily a good thing on the NASDAQ, as the NASDAQ was the weaker index today. We saw sell-offs across the board in Google, Baidu, Apple, and Research in Motion, which I consider to be the four horsemen of the market. I know Kramer says it's included of Amazon there, or was inclusive of Amazon. I subtracted Amazon out of there, as I do believe Baidu is a player in the market. Now, Baidu has earnings tomorrow, so we need to watch that. Also for solar plays, First Solar, FSLR, has earnings as well. And FSLR was very, very weak today. You can see that reversal, all right? We were above, We didn't confirm it because we didn't close on the daily above the high. In fact, we closed below the 20. So this is going to really play into First Solar's earnings tomorrow, which way we go. One thing I'm just seeing on this chart is you have a nice little channel here. Quickly draw on the channel for everyone so you can see it. Alright, see that channel? Beautiful channel right now on FSLR. A close above this channel would be bullish. A close below would be bearish. And a close below, you'd probably see the 200 moving average down here touched. So again, you can follow that channel. And that is just briefly looking at that chart. First time I brought that chart up in a while here, so we are just seeing that for the first time. Nonetheless, looks like positives. So, and in any case, folks, we're going to end the video now, but just keep in mind, retail sales at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. That's going to be big. We're on a pivot point here. We've had the rally we've talked about in the previous videos as we expected, and we'll continue to monitor the markets and see what happens tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, guys. Hope everyone's doing well. Take care.